Travis Wayne Goodsell. Here we go. Martin Harris. Bombshell time. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has attempted yet again, because of me, to cover up church history. Now with Martin Harris. I've been telling you, Martin Harris was on the council in Palmyra for the anti-Masons. Now that's crucial, because knowing that he's an anti-Mason, and then there's this disappearance of 116 pages from the son of a master Mason. Yep, Martin Harris's Wikipedia page has deleted that connection. But it's already known, and it's been known. And so their attempts to cover things up always gets exposed and gets them in worse trouble because they get caught covering things up. Yeah, Dialogue. The Mormon Apologetic Paper. Back in 1986 had discussed it. If you're gonna cover it up, you gotta cover it all up, which means you gotta get rid of the Book of Mormon. You gotta get rid of the Doctrine and Covenants. You've got to get rid of Joseph Smith. And they botch it because it's just too big for them to cover up. So, without any further brethren ado, let us proceed with the bombshell of Martin Harris. So the first thing you got to understand is Martin Harris is not a direct ancestor of Dallin H. Oaks. Nope. Second grandnephew. Great-grand? Great-grand. Second great-grandnephew of Martin Harris. That's like me not being related through Joseph Smith Jr. I'm through Hiram. So, senior, yes. And so, Martin Harris's father, yes. But not Martin Harris. So, understand that. He's not really related. Born May 18th, 1783. Died 10 July, 1875. Alright. He was the one who financially guaranteed the first printing of the Book of Mormon. Now, I've covered him, but in the context of others. Other events, other people. So we get to focus on him now. There was a movie. It was about an explosion in a foreign country at a big event where the President of the United States was there with another leader, and a bomb goes off, and you see it reversing after each scene, and it puts it in the perspective of a different character of the movie, as you then concludes by tying it all together. Vantage point. That's it. That's it. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing with the church history, it looks like. Alright, so remember, this is biased by Mormons who put this in here. And we've got an exposure coming up. Fraud alert. First printing of the Book of Mormon, and one of the three witnesses who testified that they had seen the golden plates. Gold. Gold, not golden. Gold. I think we can even check. Where would the witnesses be? Yep, there it is. We have seen the plates which contain this record, which is a record of the people of Nephi. They're translated by the gift and power of a rock and a hat, for his voice hath declared it to us. Engravings which are upon the plates, power of God, not of man. Angel of God came down from heaven. He brought and laid before our eyes, and we beheld and saw the plates, engravings thereon. Bear record these things are true. I've already done the video on the witnesses. That's one of them where Martin Harris was involved. Yeah, nothing about gold or golden in this. Interesting. Okay, let's get back to section 3. Gold. It is Mormon apologists who say golden. That's where it comes from. Mormon apologists. So when you see it, you know it's an anachronism. You know that who's ever writing it is lying to you. It's gold. It's in canon. I've gone over that with you a billion gazillion times. Gold. And there's a reason why it's gold. And it has to do with Martin Harris. Had been translated. Okay. Early life. Harris was born in Easton, New York. And we can look it up. It doesn't seem necessary at the time. But if you're going to do a thorough research in church history, yes, you need to do this. You need to have separate sheets for categories, file systems of people, places, dates, events, and have them referenced so that when you see a same place, like Canandaigua, New York, I found it in here, in the dialogue. You can then identify everyone involved with that certain place or event or such and such. So, important to do if you're going to be accurate and figure out what's being lied about and covered up and missing. Okay, he's the second of 8 children born to Nathan Harris and Rhoda Latham. And Oakes is related to them, not Martin Harris. According to historian, and he's the one who does the dialogue. That's him, Ronald W. Walker. Let me verify that. Yep, Ronald W. Walker. Yep. Now, did I lose my place? I think, no. Yep, there it is. Okay. Because it's on 2 pages, pages 32 and 33. So I gotta pay it, keep that placeholder. Little is known of his youth, but if his later personality and activities are guides. No, this is not how you do church history. You do not fill in the blanks. My spiritual witness is telling me that he helped the poor and the needy, and he gave to his neighbors when in need, and was courteous and kind and cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. No, you can't do that. Get that crap out of history. Ronald W. Walker. Yeah, how did I know? The boy partook of the sturdy values of his neighborhood, which included work, honesty, rudimentary education, and godly fear. How did I know? Dear God. We got a BS alert. BS alert. That's why he was made historian for the church. In 1808, Harris married his first cousin when she was 16 years old. They don't have that in here, do they? That's strange. He put it in dialogue. Yep, Lucy Harris. And they have a 3. Martin Harris, the Encyclopedia of Mormonism, is now red. Oh, the church has pulled it? Interesting. Interesting. So my collection is now rare? But they put a lot of work into that, and the church has just abandoned it? And so, yes, Dallin H. Oaks wants to be associated with Martin Harris, who marries underage cousins. Doesn't Rudy Giuliani have something scandalous like that? Are they related? Harris served with the 39th Regiment. Who's Oaks' wife again? Harris served with the 39th Regiment of the New York State Militia of Ontario County, New York, in the War of 1812. He inherited 150 acres. Until 1831, Harris lived in Palmyra, New York. Now we have a crossover location and dating, because that's where the Smiths moved to, was Palmyra, until 1818, when Senior got the Manchester farm. And so Harris was there, where he was a prosperous farmer. Harris's neighbors considered him both an honest and superstitious man. If you're superstitious, you're not honest. A biographer wrote, that Harris's imagination was excitable and fecund. I'm sure all of you know exactly what that means. Producing or capable of producing an abundance of offspring or new growth. Fertile? What? What? Excitable? His imagination was excitable and fertile, I guess in the general sense, rather than the specific sense. That's freaky. Especially when it's connected to him and 16-year-old cousins. For example, Harris once perceived a sputtering candle to be the work of the devil. He's not being honest. Superstition makes you a liar. You're not telling people the truth when you say a candle flickering is of the devil. The water boy. Mama says. Who's this biographer? It's Walker. Oh my God. You're killing me. I've told you guys over and over and over again, I don't have to do any prior research to make sure that I'm not going to be exposed. There's always something that not only confirms what I've been telling you, it drops a bombshell live. That's why I have no fear. Just going right in. Oh my God. And they're just going off here. They took out that he was on the committee and put in all this list of his superstitions. It's over an inch thick. An acquaintance said that Harris claimed to have seen Jesus in the shape of a deer and walked and talked with him for 2 or 3 miles. Oh my God. Vogel for that one. The local Presbyterian minister called him a visionary fanatic. A friend who praised Harris as being universally esteemed as an honest man also declared that Harris's mind was overbalanced by marvelousness, and that his belief in earthly visitations of angels and ghosts gave him the local reputation of being crazy. Stone cold crazy. Oh, dear God. Vogel again on that one. Whew. But having now read this, what did Joseph Smith do to convince Martin Harris to fund the publication of the Book of Mormon in the first place, and then later at the end? He already has a preconceived belief that he's been talking with Jesus as a deer. And he's been visited with angels and ghosts. And so Joseph Smith comes to him and says, yeah, an angel gave me gold plates. I want to see the characters. See, we're getting to that. You see what they did? They knew him, they knew his character, they knew what would take to get him to fork up the money to publish the book. There is still some truth that remains in the hearsay. Another fiend said Martin was a man that would do just as he agreed with you. But he was a great man for seeing spooks. Martin was a man that would do just as he agreed with you, but he was a great man for seeing spooks. But yeah, he sees the devil in the flickering candles. So that's where it is, superstition. He's a man who lives by lies. His whole life is a fraud. And he's become the fraud. Some Palmyrians, seriously, that's what you call them. Just say some townsfolk of Palmyra. Don't do this. You might as well do Palmyraites. However, remembered Harris as a skeptic who was not very religious before the Book of Mormon. So who are we supposed to believe? Nobody. See, the church wants to put in the angel thing because of the witness statement that I just read to you. That an angel appeared, showed them the plates. They don't call them gold or golden or brass. They just say plates. They don't even describe the plates. And I did the video on that. There's suspicion that none of them saw it. It was written without their knowing that it was written about them. Except for Oliver. Alright, let's see. Not very religious. Okay, nevertheless, even early anti-Mormons, you know this was written by a Mormon, who knew Harris, believed that he was honest, industrious, benevolent, worthy citizen. How did I know? How did I know? See, they're desperately trying to present a faith-promoting image of his character. Desperate. Because the guy was a, dear God. On Harris's departure from New York with the Latter-day Saints, the local paper wrote, several families, numbering about 50 souls, took up their line of march from this town last week for the Promised Land, among whom was Martin Harris, one of the original believers in the Book of Mormon. Mr. Harris was among the early settlers of this town, and has been born the character of an honorable and upright man. So yeah, it's from a local paper. That's great. And an obliging and benevolent neighbor. He had secured to himself by honest industry a respectable fortune, and he had left a large circle of acquaintances and friends to pity his delusion. But they're not really telling us the reference. It's from contentdm.lib So they're not telling us 19th century publications, several families. God, they just don't know how to do referencing properly. If it's from the local paper, you quote the local paper. You don't put a third-ary source material. God, such incompetence on this. Early interaction with Smith. The Smith family moved to Palmyra in 1816. And in 1824, Harris employed Joseph Smith Sr. to dig a well and a cistern. Smith Sr. reportedly told Harris about the gold plates in 1824. Harris later recounted the first time he saw Joseph Smith use a seer stone when the latter used it to locate a lost object for Harris. Who's responsible for this? Encyclopedia of Mormonism. Interview with Martin Harris, which is no longer available, but the Utah Lighthouse Ministry has. See, now they did it right. Even though it's from the Utah Lighthouse Ministry, they put Tiffany, Joel, 1859, and then in quotes, and it's blued for the link, interview with Martin Harris. But the actual source, Tiffany's Monthly, is no longer available in the link. It's in red. That's better. That's how these others should have been done. But Senior, huh? Senior dug the well? Oh, look! Smith Sr. reportedly told Harris about the gold plates in 1824. But they said golden up above. Oops. Every single time. I thought this was weird, so I confirmed. Whoosah! We have an error alert. Major error alert. So, as you're doing names, places, dates, events, error alert. Let me read this again for you. See if any of you else caught it. Early interaction with Smith. The Smith family moved to Palmyra in 1816, and in 1824, Harris employed Joseph Smith Sr. You can hover over it. It's Joseph Smith Sr. Joseph Smith Sr. was the father of Joseph Smith Jr., the founder of the Latter-day Saint movement. Joseph Sr. was also one of the 8 witnesses of the Book of Mormon, which Mormons believe was translated by Smith Jr. from golden plates, not gold, as they just have it here in the same sentence. You see that? Where did Joseph Smith Jr. get his rocks for his hat? Oh my God! If you're gonna cover things up and replace them, oh my God! To dig a well and a cistern. As I was wondering, because they don't put senior or junior. They say Harris later recounted the first time he saw Joseph Smith use a seer stone. Seer stone? What? Why is that here? Where'd that come from? It's because Junior, not Senior, worked for Martin Harris and dug the well, found some rocks, put them in his hat. Ta-da! Watch me pull a Book of Mormon out of my hat. So here, let's see if this is an authorized source for you enough. churchofjesuschrist.org. An article, The Contributions of Martin Harris. I've been so hard I'm going to need to take a break here soon. Martin Harris knew most of the story. An angel had visited Joseph Smith and revealed to him the existence of a record on an ancient metallic plates buried in a hill near his home. For 3 years, Joseph had watched and waited. Now, Lucy Smith had come to tell Martin that her son had at length obtained the plates from the angel and was intent on seeing them translated. Joseph and his family were not in a position to pay to publish the translation, but Martin Harris was, because he believes in angels. Lucy Mack Smith asked Martin if he would come visit Joseph Jr. He agreed, and his wife, Lucy Harris, Yeah, yeah. Martin Harris agreed, and his wife, his 16-year-old cousin, Lucy Harris, she's older by now, insisted she would come also. Joseph Smith likely considered Martin Harris a friend. He had previously confided in Martin regarding his angelic visits and the existence of the plates. Martin apparently returned his friendship. He had hired Joseph Smith as a day laborer on his farm and found him to be a reliable hand. Ta-da! When the latter used it to locate a lost object for Harris with the seer stone, I've got it. Oh dear God, this is priceless. These videos are gems, people. Do you understand how important to history these are? You will not get this from any other person. Alright, so let me point out another thing when doing historical research, and that's to avoid anachronisms. For those of you who think it's okay to marry a 16-year-old, that is not so bad. It's only 2 years away from being an adult. You just pulled an anachronism. The Constitution first designated the age of an adult as 21 years of age. 5 years as jailbait. So be careful of that. What they did back then is different. Pay attention. So there's a lot going on when doing historical research. You can't just assume that women had freedom and they could vote and they weren't sex slaves to their husbands. Don't be fooled. Don't be thinking they wore tennis shoes. Don't be thinking they rode cars and drove planes. You got to know when certain things were invented and when certain things changed in history. That is crucial. If only people would understand this for the Bible. If only Mormons would understand why people are saying the Book of Mormon is not literal history. But nope, we gotta change history. We gotta change science to conform to the Book of Mormon as history. Alright, so the part about the anti-Mason movement has been removed from Wikipedia. So we go to Walker. Walker. Like I said, 1986, Dialogue, volume 19, number 4, and then there's page 31, I'm guessing, although it's 32 and 33 here. Yeah, I don't know what that 31 then is. Alright, so here's the part that includes Canandaigua, New York, and then we'll get to the key part on the next page, page 33. During the early 1820s, so early 1820s is before 1825, he was recognized at the local fair for the manufacture of bed ticking, coverlets, worsted stockings, and flannel. So types of clothing and bedding stuff that's made with whatever they were made with. For the best pair of rose blankets. Harris himself occasionally played a leadership role at these fairs. One year he helped judge swine. At another, he was elected one of 2 Palmyra managers for the Ontario Agricultural Society. And so they've got in parentheses the references here. Ontario Repository, title varies. Canandaigua, New York. He's been to Canandaigua, New York's fair in the early 1820s, while Senior was a master mason. And so, it's not unreasonable to understand how they would have known each other, the families. New York. But for him not to be aware of the anti-Mason as a well, I'll get to that, but Joseph Smith was the master Mason in Canandaigua. But if you don't go to the lodge membership, or you don't go to the lodges to watch and participate and try to become a member and rise up in rank, you won't know. I don't go around telling people. Only those who go know who's in it. 29 October 1822 and 11 November 1823. Wayne Sentinel, Palmyra, 19 November 1823 and 17 November 1824. Now, you'll need to understand they used horses and sometimes carriages. If he's going to a fair and he's going to participate with his goods, he's going to need a wagon with his horse. And so then you need to find out that it's about 20 to 35 miles, 20 to 35 miles per day for a horse and a wagon especially. And so Palmyra is up here, Canandaigua down here, Manchester Farm in the middle. So you can do the math and figure out when he would have to leave. You know, like Beauty and the Beast, the cartoon version. Papa has an invention to take to the fair, and he sets off to go to the fair until he gets lost and ends up at the house and gets held hostage by the Beast. And then Belle goes to rescue him. You know, something like that. Okay. So let's get down to the missing factual information that you need to have in your separate files under Martin Harris. Harris also may have taken a role in the anti-Masonic crusade which swept the region in the late 1820s. It was actually in 1827, because 9/11, September 11th, September 11th, 1826, there was a certain incident in Canandaigua, New York. At an anti-Masonic convention meeting held at Lyons, New York, one of 10 in Palmyra's immediate vicinity, Harris was called to serve on his neighborhood's Vigilance Committee. And he's got 4, and there it is. There's the primary source document that has been removed from Wikipedia. It's the Wayne Sentinel, 5 October 1827. Not in the Library of Congress. I can't find it. Okay, there's October 1st, 1823. Okay, they only have 1823, and it was on Wednesdays from October to December. 5 October 1827, he's claiming. We can fact check him here. time and date. It shows it's on a Friday, not the Wednesdays. But that was 4 years earlier, but it was consistent. Here we go. 1827. It is on a Friday now, in 1827. There we go. October 5th. There it is. There it is. It's NYS historicnewspapers.org. All one word there. /LCCN/S/N8402437/1/827-10-505/ed-1/. I guess it's backslash. And so here we go. They allow us to see the image, and they do. They allow for a PDF. It just scared me for a minute as it was checking my system to be able to handle it. Okay, so page 1 is obtained. Page 2, PDF, download, page 3, PDF. See, this is a primary source document that shows Martin Harris is connected to the anti-Mason movement as a member in Palmyra in his neighborhood on the committee against any of them Freemasons. So you are learning how to correctly do church history research and what primary source documentation is, and how to expose the church for their cover-ups. Alrighty. There we go. We got them. They're mine. All mine. Alrighty. So, confirmed. Martin Harris has been covered up by the church, not wanting you to know this factual information about church history. They're okay about angels and rocks in a hat, sort of. Pretty pathetic how they... Dear God. And so he's against anything that suggests Freemasonry. And he's superstitious. If he sees a Freemason, he's going to call it of the devil. And then you can identify. God. Okay. Harris's family had Quaker ties. That was not brought up in Martin Harris's thing. So, yeah, I've got the dialogue downloaded as well. It's 15 pages. It's Martin Harris, Mormonism's early convert, Ronald W. Walker, and like I said, dialogue, volume 19, number 4, and it's available on PDF, just like the factual primary source document that ties Martin Harris as a member of the Anti-Mason Committee. And that's crucial when we got to the 116 lost pages. Okay. Roll in Anthem transcript. And then there's a main article for the Anthem transcript. So, Harris hears about an angel giving Joseph Smith gold plates with ancient writing on them. He wants them authenticated. This is awesome. He wants to be a part of it. But he needs to be assured it's not a fake. He's not being used for his money. And so, Junior wrote out what has become the Anthem transcript. And again, they blow it by putting golden. You're mixing gold and golden in the same article. You can't do that, guys. It's gold. And so, if you're unfamiliar with the York Rites Freemasonry with Knights Templar, I saw a news article about how the Vikings were before Christopher Columbus. It was 1021, because it's now 1,000 years since that date. And they were talking about all that has gone on from their day into our day, 1,000 years later thing. But 1363, the York Rites came to America with the help of the Vikings, and the Kensington Stone by the Mandan Indian tribe, found on the Lewis and Clark expedition right before the War of 1812. All of this ties in. You cannot dismiss any of it. I mean, Chief Great White? Yeah. White Indians, huh? So, yeah. And then the church's version is kind of off. Go figure. Go figure. But there was something that I checked here with a loss. Finance here. Yeah, okay. It's not until we get down. They're still pushing golden. They use gold for that one instance, and the rest of it's golden. See, this is what you get when you have guys purposely trying to cover things up. You always miss something, and you're gonna get caught and exposed for covering things up. Haven't you learned? There's so many movies and TV shows about how villains get caught because they always leave clues. You'd think the church would learn. We have advanced scientific methods of forensic investigation now. And they're even botching some basic pre-forensic investigation tools. Dear God. So, let's see. And so, yeah, the whole New York thing is not quite as accurate as the church portrays it. But the Smiths were the ones who used it to confirm the Isaiah. Notice the Smiths, because Martin Harris didn't last too long as the scribe. Okay, yeah, this is a different telling of it. Anthon maintained that he told Harris that he, Harris, was a victim of a fraud and not to get involved. And here they have golden plates. Oh, God. With a link to the Book of Mormon. Oh, dear God. Apologists, you're just getting the church deeper in trouble, thinking you're protecting the church. Harris's wife continued to oppose his collaboration with Smith. Where's the reference for that one? It's missing. And that's what I first checked, because I saw that when I was getting all the sources up on the internet for you guys. Because the church still perpetuates the lie. And I don't understand, because our canon scripture tells us a different story than what the prophets are telling us. Even Oaks to this day. Alright, scribe to Joseph Smith, and there's a separate thing for lost 116 pages. I did that video. I reveal what the original 116 pages are. And so yes, Canandaigua, New York, William Morgan. His book that he was paid for by the Batavian Press by David Miller never got finished because he kept getting falsely arrested to prevent him from finishing the book. And the book that the Batavian Press published to try to recover some of the lost money was under William Morgan's name, and all it was the 3 ranks for Freemasonry. There's no scandal, no demons, no evil. In fact, it goes over the duties of a Master Mason and how he's, a citizen in the community, helping his brothers and the community as a whole. So there's no scandal with the book. It was kind of a letdown. All this hype about something in this book that was going to be a bombshell threat to American security. And then he just disappears from Canandaigua on 9/11, 1826. And a Master Mason is there and involved. And his son just happens to begin working on a book for which the 116 pages are given up to Martin Harris, who's on an anti-Mason committee. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist, but it may take a neurologist. See, here's the no. See, Smith already had the 116 pages in his possession. And so once Martin Harris had written out the 116 pages, we get to the sections in the Doctrine and Covenants that explains better than the church's history from the prophets, trying to cover it all up, what actually happened. See here, Harris asked Smith for permission to take the 116 pages of manuscript back to his wife to convince her of its authenticity. Smith reluctantly agreed. After Harris had shown the pages to his wife and some others, the manuscript disappeared. The reference, number 21, Doctrine and Covenants, section 3. 4. Smith reluctantly agreed, and after Harris had shown the pages to his wife and some others, the manuscript disappeared. So section 3, not reading the intro, though I'm pretty sure History of the Church, Volume 1, 21 to 23, might have some bearing on this. We could actually check and confirm, because maybe the story does come from this. But because it's 21, 22, it's 3 pages, and it does seem small enough to fit on one, but it would be in this one, Joseph Smith History, Volume 1. Page 10, okay. Page 14. Page 18. Page 21. Okay. So it should be right here. Until the translation was finished, the copyright secured. Upon our arrival, we found Mr. Whitmer's family. What? Okay. So it's from this. History of the Church, 1, 21 to 23. So it's not page, it's 21, 23. So that's the different. Okay, so we gotta go back up. Okay. On with the writings. I went to visit my father's family at Manchester. I continued there for a short season and then returned to my place in Pennsylvania. You're not going to tell us it's Harmony, Susquehanna? Immediately after my return home, probably talk about it earlier, don't you? Don't you? Because I think that's the canonized portion that we have. I'm going to get distracted, going on another tangent here. Come back to this. See, the church no longer publishes this. It's all Joseph Smith Papers stuff now. But this is the original, supposedly. That's what the church has on the Joseph Smith Papers site. I did a copy and paste of all of it. Has the copyright is now in the public domain, over 100 years old. I continued there for a short season and then returned to my place in Pennsylvania. Immediately after my return home, I was walking out in distance. Behold, the former heavenly messenger appeared and handed to me the Urim and Thummim again. For it had been taken from me in consequence of my having wearied the Lord and asking for the privilege of letting Martin Harris take the writings which he lost by transgression. And I inquired of the Lord through them and obtained the following revelation. I don't see a wife. Where's the wife? Where's the wife? Oh. Okay, it's in 20. See, this is 1838 when this is being written. Martin Harris, there's some things that happen in 1838. Interesting. Okay. Martin Harris, having returned from his tour, he left me and went home to Palmyra, arranged his affairs, and returned again to my house about the 12th of April, 1828, and commenced writing for me while I translated from the plates, which he continued until the 14th of June following. Martin Harris says it was a rock and a hat, not translating from the plates. By which time he had written 116 pages of manuscript on foolscap paper. Sometime after Martin Harris had began to write for me, he began to tease me to give him liberty to carry the writings home and show them, and desired of me that I would inquire of the Lord through the Urim and Thummim if he might not do so. I did inquire. The answer was that he must not. However, he was not satisfied with this answer and desired that I should inquire again. I did so, and the answer was as before. I'm still not seeing a wife. Still, he could not be contented, but insisted. Show them to who? His little club. Anti-Mason club still. Okay. Still he could not be contented and insisted that I should inquire once more. After much solicitation, I again inquired of the Lord. Permission was granted to have the writings on certain conditions, that he show them only to his brother, Preserved Harris, his own wife, his father, and his mother, and a Polly Harris Cobb, a sister to his wife. In accordance with this last answer, I inquired of him that he should bind himself in a covenant to me in the most solemn manner, that he would not do otherwise than had been directed. He did so. He bound himself as I required of him, took the writings, and went his way. See, none of this has any kind of, there's, again, the different sections that you have for your file system, there's some red flags going up here. Joseph Smith had just lost his firstborn son, Joseph Smith III. There's no mention of any of that here. This is when he goes to the Methodists with his wife, Emma, because she's a Methodist, in Harmony, north of Pittsburgh. Notice they don't say Harmony, Susquehanna River, Pennsylvania. But it would be in the canons, so it would be further up, just as it is. Lucy Mack's journal confirms. I refer you to my son's record. And it's just quoted in there. But you do not see that his wife was responsible for nagging him to get him. But that's the video that the church put out. So notwithstanding, however, the great restrictions which he had been laid under, and the solemnity of the covenant which he had made, he did show them to others. Others? What others? Who others? And by stratagem, they got them away from him. He gave them to them. And they never have been recovered nor obtained back again until this day. In the meantime, while Martin Harris was gone with the writings, nope, the wife had nothing to do with it. It's a lie that the church has used to cover up the real story of what happened. And that's of his anti-Mason connections. The rest of the story I've already gone over with you. He was rejected from the Methodists. Glasslooker! Primary source document. All over the internet. He was arrested. Bainbridge, I believe, is the name of the place. I'd have to fact check on that, but regardless, it's over by Susquehanna River. And it was for glass looking, because when he was working for Josiah Stoll, digging for silver, while living with Emma and her parents, he's using his rock and a hat. They aren't finding anything. And so his nephew sues Joseph Jr. for being a glass looker and tricking his uncle. And $2.68 for the misdemeanor charge of being a glass looker. The Methodists know about this and say, we don't want your kind here. So he not only doesn't get to be a Methodist, Emma has to go with him, and her parents. They can't be in the same town no more. Don't want no glass looker or anybody associated. And thanks to a Mormon who thinks that I'm wrong, sent me a comment with the link, or I don't think he gave me a link. I think he just told me, well, what about the land purchase of Joseph's and his father-in-law? Again, they need to have the Book of Mormon published. And Joseph blows it, because we're going to throw in the other problem in section 3 here to confirm it wasn't the wife. And and so they are out of harmony. They can't go back. They can't live there anymore. And so the whole group of them are now at the farm with Senior. Section 3 is then written. And then 10. And then you have Mr. Hales. All right, Mr. Hale. Is it Emma Hale or Hales? Regardless, has to get a new home. And so where does he go? What used to be called Harmony, but is no longer Harmony and hasn't been for quite a while. Susquehanna River, Pennsylvania. Because the post office cannot have the same city name in the same state. Can't be done. Post office has to know where to deliver the mail to properly. And so the Harmony Susquehanna River, Pennsylvania changed their name. And it was a completely different name. And so the bill of sale for Joseph Jr.'s home, which he doesn't even use, he goes off to the Whitmers to finish up the translation, where Oliver Cowdery is now the babysitter. Because Senior is pissed. You've lost your gift for translation, Joseph. That's what happened. He no longer gets to be a part of writing the Book of Mormon. Because during that tragedy in his life, which he's not explaining here, he's doing some other cover story, because Martin Harris, this is 1838 when he's writing this. This is not historically accurate. But there are some things in here to pay attention to. Others. He gave it to others. Not his wife. He gave it to others. And it's just like the church for Thomas B. Marsh. They again created a story to blame the wife. Joseph Smith was in Liberty Jail. He's not excommunicating anybody. It's those kinds of cover-up mistakes, rewriting of church history, trying to deceive Mormons, that get the church in trouble. Bigger, because they are blatant lies. And people go, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. I need to figure out what's going on. And ta-da, oh my God. If the church would just be honest and just glaze over it, Mormons would be like, oh, yeah, okay. But no, the church lies. They get exposed. They then say, well, yeah, but this lie now. And they keep getting themselves deeper and deeper in trouble. Just hilarious. I might not be able to get this for you until tomorrow. This is my Wednesday video, I guess. How you doing, Oaks? You're not having a heart attack, are you, like Holland did that one Monday after I submitted to the courts the latest filing. It took you guys 2 weeks to report it to us because you didn't want me to know. Oh my God. And so yes, Joseph was distracted. He lost his child. Methodists are saying, get the hell out of here. And Martin Harris was like, this has a lot of Freemasonry, especially from a guy who went missing in Canandaigua, of whom he knows about because he's on an anti-Mason committee in his hometown, Washington Sentinel, and he gives them to others. I just read it to you. I don't see the wife to blame here. Joseph doesn't blame her. That's why it's so important to be accurate with your church history. Have all your files and have them indexed to coordinate with each other. Alrighty, are we done with this? Yeah, because that's section 3 and 8. But it is the original. Why not read it from here then? Okay, that's March 1829. That's later. Why is that bumped up in church history? So that is section 3. So why isn't 10? Yeah, it contains the same information for the most part with section 3. So let's just read section 3 and 10 for you, because 10 is out of place here, which may explain why 10 is out of place. They just followed, oh God. My revised version of the Doctrine and Covenants will put them in their order in which they were given, and put in the stuff that was not put in. Okay. So yeah, we're pretty much done with this. Okay, so we can. Nope. We need to talk about him being excommunicated. So yeah, we'll keep that up here then. All right. Section 3, from the canon scripture rather than the original. I could find it on the Joseph Smith papers. I know I already have it. If I already have it, why not just refer to it? Because here it is. Let's see. And B, Book of Commandments. Should have it. 1833. A raindrops keep falling on my head. Chapter 2. That's preface. Oh, chapter 1, preface. Okay. Oh, so the preface was put in 1833's edition as the preface. Cool. Okay. Alright, then chapter 2. And 18 had lost. Ah. Okay, so chapter 2 is section 3, it looks like. So a revelation given to Joseph in Harmony, Pennsylvania. Harmony where? At this time, there was only one Harmony, and that was north of Pittsburgh. July 1828. After Martin Harris had lost the manuscript of the 4-part of the Book of Mormon. not his wife, not those people he gave it to, Martin Harris. Translated from the Book of Lehi. That's not in our scriptures. No, that they do, which was called the Book of Lehi. Okay. Raindrops keep falling on my head. So Bruce R. McConkie reworded the original above title, chapter heading, or whatever it's called, which was abridged by the hand of Mormon. No, not according to the Book of Mormon. Nephi says, I make an abridgment of the record of my father. Okay. If you're going to code things, make sure your code is in harmony, or at least accurate in each and every single segment section. But yeah, you need to know this, because you might see this as an error on Joseph's part for this chapter 2, not understanding and realizing that he encoded the Doctrine and Covenants, even the Book of Commandments. The church claims they decoded it for our 1981 editions, henceforth and forever. But I've gone over with you, they missed a lot. Not just, a single word here or there, but section 117 exposes the whole thing, that they just didn't even get any of it. They just got a small portion. And so Jesus, code. That's not Jesus. Sorry guys, I've gone over this with you. And so anyway, the works and designs and the purposes of God cannot be frustrated, neither can they come to naught. For God doth not walk in crooked paths, neither doth he turn to the right hand nor to the left. So he's at the farm. I already read it to you. He has to go to the farm. He says, I went to the farm. But here it is, in the title heading, they put Pennsylvania. Neither can they come to naught in walking with crooked paths. Neither doth he turn to the right hand nor to the left. Neither doth he vary from that which he hath said. Therefore his paths are straight, and his course is one eternal round. Remember that it is not the work of God that is frustrated, but the work of men. For although a man may have many revelations, and have power to do many mighty works, yet if he boasts in his own strength, and sets at naught the counsels of God. People used to say that Smith Sr. was not a religious man, and he was just a drunken bum who couldn't keep a job. When you know the author of this section, you realize that that's just a lie. He was Congregationalist from Vermont, and follows after the dictates of his own will and carnal desires. He's giving counsel to his son. Do you see? He must fall and incur the vengeance of a just God upon him. Behold, you have been entrusted with these things, but how strict were your commandments. And remember also the promises which were made unto you, if you did not transgress them. He's trying to have his son become the Christ of his Congregationalist upbringing, of his York Rites Freemasonry with the Knights Templar. And behold, how oft you have transgressed the commandments and the laws of God, and have gone on in the persuasions of men. For behold, you should not have feared man more than God. Although men set at naught the counsels of God and despise his words, yet you should have been faithful, and he would have extended his arm and supported you against the fiery darts of the adversary. They still have the original 116 pages, but they can't use them now. And he would have been with you in every time of trouble. He lost his firstborn birthright blessing son, Joseph Smith III, and got booted out of the Methodists, got booted out of Harmony with his parents-in-law. Behold, thou art Joseph, and thou wast chosen to do the work of the Lord. He was chosen to be the Christ. But because of transgression, if thou art not aware, thou wilt fall. But remember, God is merciful. Therefore repent of that which thou hast done, and he will only cause thee to be afflicted for a season, while you're babysat by Oliver Cowdery at the Whitmer's house. And thou art still chosen, but after I do the work for you, and wilt again be called to the work after it's done. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. And except thou do this, be babysat, thou shalt be delivered up and become as other men, and you're not going to be involved as the Christ for the latter days. We'll give it to Hiram. Somehow. But notice, Hiram comes from Hiram Abiff, from the Masonic ritual, who was assassinated at Solomon's Temple. And he is assassinated with his brother Joseph anyway. And when thou deliverest up that which God had given thee sight and power to translate, thou deliverest up that which was sacred into the hands of a wicked woman? Nope. A wicked man. See, this was written before the 1838 edition. Joseph says that he didn't deliver him up to him, that there was a covenant bond, and Joseph thought that was not that big of a deal because they still had the original. But they don't have plates. If they had plates, there would have been no problems. You just take a photograph of them. I don't think the first photographs, so this is again one of those things from history you got to pay attention to. The first photograph ever taken was in 1826. French scientist Joseph Nipsey took that photograph. The window at Le Gras. Okay. At his family's country home. So he was in France. Taking a picture outside his window, I guess. But still has to get to America from France. And it has to become popular, because usually once an invention occurs, it takes quite a while before it's mainstream. So, yeah. Maybe. Alright, where was I? Yeah. And so, understand that you don't see the discussion about Joseph explaining, well, Martin Harris said his wife wanted it, and blah, blah, blah. That's from the church history. 1838. This was 1828, 10 years earlier. This is closer to the source of the event. Not 1838. This is. And so even though they reference history of the church, the date for this is July 1828. And it leaves out also the death of his son and the Methodists. But his church history goes on to explain the Methodists. So you see what he's doing here? He's leaving things out, not maliciously, because there are people trying to assassinate them. I don't know if you guys fully understand this. When people want you dead, don't want you to do videos on YouTube exposing crime and corruption, they will have you assassinated. Make sure that you no longer ever do videos on YouTube ever again. But they can't outright assassinate you. So they send you threats. They lock you up in a Nazi concentration camp in the state of Utah, posing as a hospital, for filing a petition for a redress of grievances. And they claim that because you show that Joseph Smith is a translator, that you're a terrorist. Okay, was I reading it from this? Or was I reading it from the other? It's got several things going here. I think this is not the, okay. This is the Book of Commandments. This is where we are. A wicked man who has set at naught the counsels of God, and has broken the most sacred promises which he made before God, and has depended upon his own judgment, and boasted in his own wisdom, and this is the reason that thou hast lost thy privileges for a season. Again, that doesn't mean he gave them up to him to show to his family, and gave them to others. Because it simply says here that there was some kind of a commitment to be the scribe. That's all I'm reading from this. Because this is before the church history was written. And so this is a closer source document to what actually happened. Even though there's some bias here that we have to recognize, and yes, we know that there is information missing. And so that we can't just automatically accept whatever this says. We have to take it into the context of the actual history that we know. And I gave that to you. The death of his kid, and booted out of the Methodists and out of Harmony, north of Pittsburgh. And into the hands of a wicked man. And so yeah, Martin Harris saw his opening and took it and ran. And so now they don't use him. They ignore him. They don't have any dealings with him. They move along. Oliver Cowdery is now stepping up to babysit Joseph in another place altogether. They can't have Joseph back in Harmony. He's not allowed there, but Martin Harris knows where he is. So they now have to create another scenario to protect themselves. Because if these anti-Masons find out that Junior has the Martin Harris, or not the Martin Harris, the William Morgan transcripts, the original manuscripts, that's going to be bad news. Because the enemy is going to find out. And they did. I've gone over that with you. That's Heber C. Kimball. Alright. So, where have we left off? Man, sacred, promises, trampled on from the beginning. Nevertheless, my work shall go forth and accomplish my purposes, for as the knowledge of a Savior has come into the world, a Christ, mortal man, mortal parents, not Jesus. Even so shall the knowledge of my people, the Nephites, and the Jacobites, and the Josephites, and the Zoramites, come to the knowledge of the Lamanites, and the Lemuelites, and the Ishmaelites, which dwindleth in unbelief because of the iniquities of their fathers, who have been suffered to destroy their brethren because of their iniquities and their abominations. And for this very purpose, the long sentence, I want to get to talk about this, are these plates preserved which contain these records, and that the promises of the Lord might be fulfilled, which he spake unto the people, that the Lamanites, I thought I had long run-on sentences, Lamanites might come to the knowledge of their fathers, and that they might know the promises of the Lord. That's where I get it from. They taught me to have long run-on sentences, and that they might believe the gospel and rely upon the merits of Jesus Christ. See, code. And be glorified through faith in his name, and that though their repentance they might be saved. Amen. So February 1829 is chapter 3. Interesting. That's earlier than July here. Interesting. So these will have to be put in their proper order too. Alright, so yes. See, they already know about the Solomon Spaulding manuscript of Sidney Rigdon's. They already were involved with him working on the rest of the book. Because Senior can't do it. He was there in Canandaigua. If people find out or told that he was the Master Mason there and that he was involved, they're going to be looking at his farm, at the lodge that eventually got burned down with the anti-Mason movement the next year. They were searching for those manuscripts. They needed to find them. So how do you hide them? You don't even have them anywhere in the vicinity. They had Sidney Rigdon. Took it all the way out there. That's why Joseph was in Harmony, north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Because it's way out of the way. And he had the original 116 pages and was able to read them to Martin Harris, who believed Joseph was looking at a rock and a hat, because there was the curtain between them. He would not let Martin Harris see the plates, ever. And so Martin Harris just rewrote the 116 pages, while Sidney was trying to work on the rest of the book. But Martin Harris steals them and shows them to his anti-Mason brethren in Palmyra. As they know where the Smith farm is, just south of them. Hiram was a Freemason there in Palmyra. See the kind of jeopardy that Junior put on the whole family, not just on the publication of this book. Because what Joseph does by allowing Harris to steal them is what causes his assassination, along with his brother Hiram, in Carthage jail. And his father is trying to raise up Junior to become the latter-day Christ. And he's assassinated. And he talks about a future Mormon who's to be the Christ. This is not Christianity, guys. And so, yeah, what's February, which is before this, and then there's another one in March before this. Now behold, a marvelous work is about to come forth among the children of men. No, this is, no, yeah. See, I gotta watch myself. This is not before. This is the first, July 1828. 29 is a year later. Dear God. Alright. March 1829. He is received of me. Okay. So a year later, they've already had figured out how to tell the story of Martin Harris. Behold, I say unto you, this was March 1829. So Senior already figured it out, how to abridge the 116 pages, had already done it by here. And here we go. Behold, I say unto you that my servant Martin has denied a witness from my hand. Oh, desired. That my servant Joseph has got the things of which he has testified and borne record that he has received of me. And now behold, this shall ye say unto him: I, the Lord, am God, and I have given these things unto my servant Joseph, and I have commanded him Harmony, Pennsylvania, March 1829. I'm not messing up on that one. I'm going over it over and over and over and over and over, because I found out I was mistaken on the chapter 3, which is DNC 4. Or DNC 5. It's DNC 4. Is it? I'm saying 5 here. And that one's D&C. Did you guys mess up on this? Royal. Yeah. You... Royal. Section 4 is chapter 3. Royal messed up because they put in brackets that chapter 3 is section, or Doctrine and Covenant section 4. Chapter 3 is section 3. Chapter 3. Oh, okay. It's above. Just get rid of that. It's causing confusion. So when I go through this and yeah, I will do what I'm doing to the Book of Mormon currently, getting rid of that crap. That was not in the original book. Along with page 9 that's there. God. Remove the hyperlinks. Alright. I apparently missed something here. Chapter 3, which is section 4, not 5, is a revelation given to Joseph Smith Sr., the father of Joseph Smith, in Harmony, Pennsylvania, February 1829. Wow. But Smith Sr. is put in brackets by Royal. But it does say given to Joseph, the father of Joseph, in Harmony, Pennsylvania. So obviously Smith Sr. But still, yeah, to his father, Joseph Smith Sr. Whoops. Dear God, this is a long video. It will definitely be made tomorrow, let alone uploaded tomorrow. My heavens. Yeah. Well, this is another part of the study, and I haven't gotten to this. This is where I ended and didn't get to this part of it. But wow. We have some more stuff on another tangent. So let's go back to Martin Harris and now, behold, this shall ye say unto him. Oh, he's not there? Thus saith the Lord unto my servant Martin Harris? You see how they're wording this? This was March 1829 to Martin Harris in Harmony, Pennsylvania still, when they're no longer in Harmony. And Harmony, Susquehanna is not named Harmony. They know this. Because it changed before they even got there. Before this date. Yep. That's what they're doing. They're purposely leaving out Susquehanna River. And just putting Harmony. Entering covenant. So yeah, they're backtracking now. Martin Harris has stolen 116 pages, and so the next year in March, they then decide we're doing a revelation in which we are entering into a covenant and promise with Martin Harris for which he had blown. But they dated it after. So this must be for the witnesses, because they had finished the Book of Mormon by here. So this is to be a witness and to get him to translate the Book of Mormon now. Or to publish it, rather. Huh. Unbelieving, stiff-necked generation, my anger is kindled. Yeah, okay. That's why it's so important to have these in order. 10 needs to be put right after 3. Right, the covenant, the LDS, he condemned. So here's Oliver Cowdery, April 1829, when employed as a scribe. So it wasn't yet. What? Wait. Yeah, I'm going to get lost trying to figure this out right now. Let's get to section 10. So section 10, May 1829. This is before. What? Guys. Oh, this is after still. Okay. So, yeah, this is a year later. Chapter 10, or section 10, is chapter 9. And it's a year later, May 1829. Revelation to Joseph in Harmony, Pennsylvania, May 1829. See, Oliver, wasn't that also in Harmony? Yep. They're at the Whitmer home. Oh, this is hilarious. Okay. Forming the alteration of the manuscript. Yeah. Now behold, I say unto you that because you delivered up so many writings, which you had power to translate into the hands of a wicked man, you have lost them. I knew it. In our section 10 of the Doctrine and Covenants, revelation given to Joseph Smith the prophet at Harmony, Pennsylvania in the summer of 1828. No, that's not what they say. A revelation given to Joseph in Harmony, Pennsylvania, May 1829. 29. The church covered it up. Bruce, you covered it up. But we can check. History of the Church, Volume 1, 20 to 23 again. We can go back to that. I told you, bombshells. Purposeful, deliberate confusion as a distraction. History of the Church 118, 119. And here's 120. April through June 1828. Martin Harris having returned following Revelation. By which time, in the manuscript, Martin Harris, July 1828. Revelation given July 1828 concerning the manuscript on the first part of the Book of Mormon, which had been taken from the possession of Martin Harris, and that's section 3. Or shall go forth might be saved. And February 1829, February 1829, March 1829, April 1829, see, this extra stuff would need to be put in May 1829 concerning the alteration. Yeah, it's 1829. And our canon scripture says, and I will repeat, Revelation given to Joseph Smith the prophet at Harmony, Pennsylvania in the summer of 1828. History of the Church, Volume 1, 20 to 23, and instead it is circa April 1829, inserted pages. This revelation will read, after the interlined words are words in page 11 and line 17a, revelation given to Joseph Smith Jr., May 1829, informing him of the alteration of the manuscript of the part of the Book of Mormon. May 1829. No harmony. Because, like I went over with you, chapter 9, which is Doctrine and Covenants 10, a revelation given to Joseph in Harmony, Pennsylvania, May 1829. I'm not seeing an error on my part this time. I'm going over it, over and over. Going over it with you. You can go over it with me. Make sure. Both the history of the church from 1838 and chapter 9 of the Book of Commandments. Let's check the Doctrine and Covenants. (1844) Doctrine and Covenants. Doctrine and Covenants 1835. Okie dokie. And here we have the preface, okay, and then lectures on faith. So we got to go way beyond this. slow to load. Question. Okay. Still questions. Lectures on faith. Lecture 4th. Dear God. Duty of the members after they received in baptism. Okay. Section 3 on priesthood. See, this rearranged the orders yet again as well. Section 4 on priesthood. Section 4 or 5. So that's, yeah, the order is completely different here. Section 6 is 6 December, it's 86 basically. Section 7 is December 27th, 1832. April 1829 to Oliver Cowdery. Okay. And 9 is to Oliver Cowdery, July 1830. September 1830 for 10. Where are you? Did you leave them out for this one? Because I know it wasn't passed up. So 42, 43, 45. Interesting. Dear God. Okay, here we have part 2nd. Yeah. Articles and Commandments, Priesthood, Revelation, September, Minutes of the High Council, Parable of the Wheat and Tares, Revelation on the Olive Leaf. They did take it out. Fascinating. Wait a minute, here we go. May 1829 on losing. It's page 163. Okay. There we go. And it is still May 1829. Fascinating. July 1828, and then all the way to May. It's number 36, due on losing some of the Book of Mormon, May 1829. Confirmed. Our section 10 has the wrong date. Because the Book of Mormon's finished. Pretty much finished. There's no way it got done that quickly. Wow. What did I tell you? Bombshells. Wow. So after 3 hours, this is a 3-hour tour. Dear God. Wow. Okay. So let's get to his marital conflict. Witness to the golden... Wow. High priest. Marriage to Caroline Young. She died in the Lucy died in the summer of 1836. And on November 1st, 1836, Harris married Caroline Young. I should check. 22-year-old daughter, so she's legal age adult. He was 31 years older, so apparently he liked them young. Had 7 children. But I would need to check Joseph Smith and the legal justice system for what was going on in November 1836. Because 1837 is the Kirtland Safety Society problem. Like I said, Joseph Smith, like William Morgan, was being falsely arrested because they were trying to coup the church. So, yeah, he splits with Joseph. Harris called it a fraud. And he attempted to reorganize the church led by Warren Parrish. Interesting. There was a coup. Dear God. This is another video subject I've stumbled onto. Alright. 1838, March. He publicly denied that any of the witnesses to the Book of Mormon had ever seen or handled the golden blades. Gold. I need to take a restroom break here. We'll finish this in another segment. Alright. Before we get to his falling away, let's sum up what we've learned. Martin Harris was involved in 1827 into 1828 because he gets the gold plates in September 1827. And you notice that it's a year later from the disappearance of William Morgan. And early part of 1827, the newspaper guy comes out with his article, gets everybody in a panic mode against all Freemasonry. The people just burned down hundreds of Freemason lodges, temples, as they were called. And from this, people decided we're forming an anti-Mason movement, which was intended to be a political movement to protect American government from the infiltration of this evil threat to America of Freemasonry. That was not in William Morgan's credited book. And so Martin Harris, being a part of that committee, having gone to New York to say, are these characters for real? I'm not allowed to see them. but this is what is apparently on them. And Anthem says they're a fraud. Don't get involved with it. And so the Smiths then use it to claim fulfillment of Isaiah. And Martin Harris begins helping with the work. If he's going to pay for it, he wants to be involved. And Joseph Smith's son dies, and the Methodists banish them because he's a glass looker. And Martin Harris takes the weakness and steals 116 pages and gives them to his anti-Mason buddies. Now I understand why it's in that order. And Martin Harris is no longer used. We find out February 1829. That's when something else is published. Now, granted, there was some stuff that got destroyed at the print press for the first sections of the Doctrine and Covenants. And so we have to acknowledge that there may appear, I don't know how, maybe Mark Hoffman can find them for us, even though he's in prison right now. He found the Salamander letter. But they lay low. That's clear. From July 1828, when Joseph is back at the farm. They put it in there that it was in harmony still. And then they're talking to Senior and others in harmony, when he's supposed to be at the Whitmers with Oliver. They're laying low. And so, yeah, the purchase of the home in Susquehanna, yeah. Now, manufactured as a cover story, using the old name for the location. And so, yeah, they've got to lay low. Their lives are now in jeopardy because of what Junior did in letting Martin Harris steal them. And yeah, his son dies. The Methodists are angry because he's a glass looker. And so lots of problems. And then they start it up again and get Martin Harris, because the book is about finished. And they still need money to publish it. And enough time has gone by, apparently, that they were able to go back to Martin Harris and say, hey, any word on those guys you gave it to? They find them? Well, we rewrote it using the small plates. And it's all finished. Pretty much finished. They don't use them to translate. Now it's about getting him to publish it now. And so, yeah, apparently the committee didn't see enough or didn't catch on. It just, Martin Harris was paranoid, was taking it to them to check, and they weren't sure, and things died down and time went by. And so they brought it up again. But, like I said, Heber C. Kimball knew. He found out. So, and then Martin Harris pays for it. And then has us pay for it now in our day. Alright, so, in 1838, there was something about he was upset with the Kirtland Safety Society. I mean, that's money, so yeah, lots of people are going to be upset. And just watch the It's a Wonderful Life. You'll see exactly how people can get upset when their money is unavailable because of the collapse of the bank. And it was a certain kind of bank. You need to understand that. I believe this Kirtland Safety Society Wikipedia page does a fair analysis of that when I last saw it, explaining what was going on back then historically, rather than just trying to say Joseph Smith, people were mean to him, crap like that. But Harris was already starting to get unhappy with Joseph because his money obviously was involved, and so he was now teaming up with Warren Parrish. So we've got another video potential here. But again, I've been destroyed. You may not get that video unless some things happen to save my life. And so Smith and Rigdon relocate to Far West. And that pissed off Oliver, although I came across that he was also threatened by the Danites in 1838. So that's interesting. But in 1838, Smith called the three witnesses, Cowdery, Harris, and Whitmer, too mean to mention, and we had liked to have forgotten them. And so that coincides with what was going on. That's B.H. Roberts, though. It's not a primary source. Parrish's church in Kirtland took control of the temple and became known as the Church of Christ. Notice it's the Church of Christ, not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or a variation thereof. In its 1838 Articles of Incorporation, Harris, they got that church incorporated. Joseph's wasn't. Interesting. Harris was named one of the church's 3 trustees. So yeah, that is important to know. But again, that's another video topic. And I did it, or touched on it, when I went over Brigham Young's incorporation with the follow-up of Heber J. Grant's incorporation. In 1838, Harris is said to have told he never saw the plates with his natural eyes, only in vision or imagination. Yeah. Stephen Burnett to Lyman E. Johnson, 15 April 1838. Okay. Yeah, you referenced that well. Very good. Why can't you do it for all of them? A neighbor of Harris in Kirtland, Ohio, said that Harris never claimed to have seen the plates with his natural eyes, only spiritual vision. Yep, he wants to be a part of the group. The king is not wearing any clothes. In March 1838, disillusioned church members said that Harris Harris had publicly denied that any of the witnesses to the Book of Mormon had ever seen or handled the golden plates. So he denied his testimony of a witness to the plates. Hello? Mormons are spreading it around. Oh, he never denied his testimony of the Book of Mormon. Yes, he did. Harris's statement reportedly induced 5 influential members, including 3 apostles, to leave the church. As again, the Stephen Burnett letter to Luke S. Johnson. I bet that in Joseph Smith's letter book. Okay, we are going to find that in the Joseph Smith papers, right? Joseph Smith papers, letter book 2, page 64. Letter Stephen Burnett to Lyman Johnson, 15 April 1838. There it is. View entire transcript. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Ooh, it's a long one. Great googly moogly. Should watch that movie. It's been a while. Alrighty. Dear God, 185-page letter? What the hell? I guess he had a lot of things to say. Unless this is a collection of letters. It's apparently on page 64. So yeah, it must be a collection of letters. Oh my goodness. Okay, copied and pasted and saved. Alright. So yes, getting the primary source documentation is crucial, because the church is trying to cover it all up and hide it from us. Alrighty, disillusioned. So yeah, I'd have to search to find the 3 apostles, who they were, and it's likely, well, it's before, but by 1839, parish and other church leaders had rejected the Book of Mormon and broke with Harris, who continued to testify of it to its truth. But he denied. So again, there's no reference on this. Again, you've got Mormons putting it in here to save the church at all costs, even if they must lie and put in information that has no reference. In June 1841, the Painesville Telegraph reported, that's good, put it right there in the thing, H. Michael Marquette is redlined. Interesting. And apparently it's a PDF available here. Martin Harris believes that the work in its commencement was a genuine work of the Lord, but that Smith, having become worldly and proud, has been forsaken of the Lord, and has become a knave and impostor. He expects that the work will be yet revived through other instrumentalities. Yes, Brigham Young. Joseph Smith didn't see personages, he saw Jesus. He didn't see Nephi, he saw Moroni. He didn't translate. It was revelation from a rock and a hat. Okay, there's H. Michael Marquette. Martin Harris, the Kirtland years, 1831 to 1870. Dialogue, volume 35, number 3. Okay. Let's see. According to residents of Palmyra, Harris had earlier changed his religion several times, though Harris himself claimed never to have joined a church before he became a Mormon. After the death of Joseph Smith, murder, Harris remained in Kirtland and accepted James Strang. No, he went to Michigan, to Beaver Island. That's interesting. Harris could have been the one who assassinated him after John C. Bennett joined and convinced Strang to start polygamy. Of which John C. Bennett then formed his own Illuminati organization, because the Danites wouldn't take him back. Yeah. We can just click on James Strang to learn all about that. Harris traveled on a mission to England for the Strangeite Church, but the Mormon Conference there declined to hear him. When he insisted on preaching outside the building, police removed him. By 1847, Harris had broken with Strang. You mean he was assassinated by then? And accepted the leadership claims of fellow Book of Mormon witness David Whitmer, who wrote an address to all believers in Christ after Section 132 was put into the Doctrine and Covenants of Brigham Young. And he was asked about that, and he referred to it and said, oh yeah, I remember Oliver Cowdery accusing Joseph when he was chased out by the Danites that Joseph was having sex with his 15-year-old housemaid. So yeah, I can sort of see that this was done in secret by Joseph. Mormon apostle William E. McLennan organized the Whitmerite congregation in Kirtland, and Harris became a member. By 1851, Harris had accepted another Latter-day Saint factional leader, Gladden Bishop, as prophet, and joined Bishop's Kirtland-based organization. And so how do Mormons believe that Brigham's the true one if there's all these other true churches? True successions from Joseph Smith. Why is Brigham's the only true succession? In 1855, Harris joined the last surviving brother of Joseph Smith, William Smith, and declared that William was Joseph's true successor. But William didn't start his own church. He joined his nephew, Joseph Smith III, to the Second Power when he was old enough. Became a part of his. Harris was also briefly intrigued by the roll and book, a scripture that had been supernaturally delivered to the Shakers. What? What? There's no PDF for this? Come on! I want this. It's got Gerald and Sandra Tanner. I'm going to find it. Archive.org. A holy, sacred, and divine roll and book from the Lord God. Topic Shakers. Is this it? Hooray! Roll and book. Holy and sacred from the inhabitants of the earth. Revealed in the United Society of New Lebanon, County of Columbia, State of New York. Ye immortal clay, in 2 parts. Part 1. This is only part 1. Canterbury, New Hampshire. Okay. Printed in the United Society. Okay. So yeah, Shakers. PDF. Holy Sacred Divine Stew. .pdf. There's a guy with a weird channel name on YouTube, but he's friendly enough. But very interesting coding he's using. Uh, 436 pages. Wow. Wow. Can't tell if the I need to see below the line. Oh, it worked. Okay. Immediately. Great. It's mine. By the 1860s, all of those organizations had either dissolved or declined. In 1856, his wife left him to gather with the Mormons. Which Mormons? Oh, Utah Territory. I mean, Brigham Young's organization, while he remained in Kirtland. Yeah, because she's a Young. She got fed up with him. She's his property. So she finally said, I'm out of here. I'm going with my dad. While he remained in Kirtland and gave tours of the temple to curious visitors. In 1859, so he turned the temple into a profit-making business. Step right up, see the temple. Get your magic underwear. Oh, there wasn't any magic underwear, but Brigham said Joseph did. Well, see the different rooms of the creation room, the garden room, where Lucifer. Nope, not in there either. Strange. All Brigham Young's ideas, huh? Okay. 1859, Harris gave an interview which described him as an earnest and sincere advocate of the spiritual and divine authority of the Book of Mormon. It clarified how many years later? How many decades later? It clarified that Harris does not sympathize with Brigham Young and the Salt Lake Church. Yeah, it's not true. He considers them apostates. Yeah. Under the influence of the devil. Yeah. Inverted pentagram. Hello? Everybody sees it. The pretended church. Oaks, are you listening to this? You claim him as your ancestor, do you? That the pretended Church of the Latter-day Saints are in reality Latter-day Devils. Yes! He finally figures out what a real devil is. It's not the moving flicker of candlelight. It's Brigham Young's organization with the Danites. Dear God, his journey has finally been fulfilled. That himself and a very few others are the only genuine Mormons left. Oh look, he repented. That's a near-death repentance. Because he died in 1875. In 1870, at 87, Harris moved to Utah Territory. That's where his wife is. And shortly afterward was rebaptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So 11 years later. So apparently his temple tour business was not doing very well. He must have given up on it and then taken over by others. They're not informing us of that lawsuit. Harris moved to Utah Territory and was rebaptized. Are we sure, or was the records altered? Harris, who had been left destitute, ta-da, how did I know, and without a congregation in Kirtland, accepted the members of the LDS Church, the assistants. They didn't give you no assistance. Who raised $200, equivalent to $4,100 in 2020. Again, remind you of 200 pounds of gold plates. To help him move west. Okay. You know, Harris lived the last 4.5 years of his life with relatives in Logan, Cache Valley. Was buried there. Yeah, if he got rebaptized legitimately, not fraudulently, posthumously, baptizing for the dead, that he would have only done so because he was destitute. It's extortion. We're taking care of you for the rest of your life. You owe us. And so there doesn't seem to be, they have to add in testimony to the Book of Mormon. We already saw the testimony. He never saw the plates. And so it doesn't mean that on his deathbed the Book of Mormon is no fake. I know what I know. I saw it in a vision, and nobody could tell me otherwise. Oh, look at this. This is a quote from Martin Harris on his deathbed. I have seen the gold plates. 2 times in the Wikipedia article. Gold is different from golden. Gold is 200 pounds. Copper is more like 50. Or is it 20 pounds? Can't remember now. But it's a lot less. I found it this way. Let's see if I can find it again. And I'm not finding it. Gold converter. Enter gold amount. Choose gold metal. Pounds. These are different gold metals. To convert it to copper. That's going to take me too long. That's something like 20 or 50 pounds. Less than. Alright, so yeah, they do go over. He had never claimed to have seen the plates with his natural eyes. But the deathbed thing. An angel appeared to me. He's still clinging to his old beliefs. Superstition. Had I been willing to have perjured myself and sworn falsely to the testimony I now bear, I could have been a rich man. You did, and you're not. I could not have testified other than I have done and am now doing for the deathbed. Yeah, fake. I call BS alert. BS alert. Martin Harris on his deathbed, cited by George Godfrey, testimony of Martin Harris, from an unpublished manuscript copy in the possession of his descendants. I mean, hoax. Quoted in Eldon Rick's The Case of the Book of Mormon Witnesses. Oh, dear God. George Godfrey, huh? Doesn't have a blue thing on him. Who's George Godfrey? A boxer? I don't think so. A black Canadian? Not during Brigham Young's time. I don't think so. So, yeah. Did he fight Joe Louis? No, he was late 1800s. Yeah, pioneer overland travel. History of the church. He was one of the pioneers. But he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. There's that testimony of Martin Harris. And a notarized statement. Yeah. George Godfrey was the notarizer. They notarized it? Seriously? Seriously. I'm calling BS. BS alert. BS alert. Because Brigham Young had to maintain that the Book of Mormon is a true document, true plates, true history, everything true, in order to get Mormons to follow him. And as he betrayed Mormonism, went his own way in different ways, and said Brigham Young's of the devil in his desperation of being poor, I will not do that. If I don't get saved and I'm out of here, I'm out of here. I'm not going to be begging to be saved and say that my testimony of Joseph Smith being a translator is false. Not going to happen. You can notarize it. I will not deny Joseph Smith, no matter how much this church tortures me and murders me. But yeah, I'm sensing deathbed baptism as well as okay. You just can't trust the church. They will have the baptismal documentation, but they've forged documents before putting different dates, such as section 132. So, dear God, is this 4 hours? But my googly mooglies, this was a bombshell. I don't know if you caught them. If you're long gone. You're gonna oh my goodness. It's after 6. Skip dinner. And we'll have to assemble it tomorrow and upload it tomorrow. Googly. And the processing time, I'll have to save it and go to the next channel. So it won't be processed till the end of day tomorrow. Dear God. But, wow. Okay.